It's Wednesday, the night when I'm the lone liberal and go up against two conservative political commentators to debate the week's biggest stories so far. On our panel tonight, Vince Colanese, homepage editor with thedailycaller.com, and Seton Motley, conservative consultant and founder and president and CEO and chairman of the board of Less Government.
And bottle watcher.
Yeah, okay, there you go. All right. It appears we're headed for a health care crisis in America if you don't consider 50 million people being uninsured an existing health care crisis. A new Kaiser survey of employer-based insurance found that premiums have increased 113% since 2001. They're expected to double over the next decade until the average annual premium for a family is over $3,200. It's going to mean employers forcing their workers to foot the bill for their health insurance. So just how much longer are we going to take this stuff?
Well,
go. I think what we're looking at is, Obamacare didn't actually head in the direction of solving the problem you're looking at. I think the Kaiser Health Survey is actually really interesting and actually sort of telling that we have a healthcare problem that needs to be attacked, and that's that we need to figure out ways in the private market to actually resolve this healthcare issue. And there's a lot For example, go ahead.
I was just going to say an example that has worked in any other developed country.
Well, I'm sure. I mean,
the only one I know of is Switzerland.
I've got the solution. The number one reform that would do it was it was the height of hypocrisy on the part of the Obama administration to somehow insist that they had the authority to mandate health insurance based on the Interstate Commerce Clause, but they won't let you buy across state lines. So if you want true reform, allow purchase across state lines, you'll have a dramatic rush.
That's one of those soundbite things that sounds.
It's not a soundbite. No, it's not a soundbite.
Well, let me explain why it's not. Why it is a soundbite. That's one of the. And it's the same thing with credit cards, for example. The law, and thank God, says that individual states can have their insurance commissioners who can make sure that the people in the state don't get screwed. In other words, local control. This is very much a 10th Amendment issue. This is very much a local control issue. And if you were a genuine conservative, you would be gung-ho for state insurance commissioners
you don't understand
being able to protect the people in their state.
They mandate all kinds of stupid things in some of the states.
No, that's mandated by federal insurance law.
California mandates that every person that buys insurance have transgender surgery coverage. That's absurd.
That's up to California.
But that's fine. So if I live in California, but I want to buy in Iowa, when there's only seven state if I want to buy in Iowa when there's only 7 state mandates,
move to Iowa.
No, you don't have to move. Why do you have to move to buy insurance?
So you don't believe in local control? Okay,
I do believe in local control. I believe in free markets. I believe in free markets.
Look, the idea
nationally, apparently, not statewide.
There's a lot involved here. I mean, obviously, if you can open up the market to a national system, that way people do have the options.
Then you'll have like the credit card thing, where everybody, all the credit card, all the insurance
every one of these organizations, every one of these
banks,
every one of these insurance companies will have to compete against one another for national audiences, and you're going to have to just by nature the prices will have to.
They're not right now. There's 7 big insurance companies.
Additionally, third-party payer system. The third-party payer system is part of the problem. You have an issue where people don't have any skin in the game, and all of a sudden they're going to start feeling it now, obviously, because you're going to have these employers, like you said, that are going to have to pass more and more as they tighten their own belt.
At the end of the day, a real reform would be to not tether health insurance to the employer. That's absurd. That's a World War II dinosaur that needs to go away.
Let's put it all in the government. Let's go to Medicare Part E for everybody.
You mean like
so-called job
Let's
creators.
have the Solyndra healthcare bill.
The so-called job that program that the Bush administration worked on for 2 years.
And they said don't fund it. And the last memo in the folder they handed the Obama administration said don't fund it.
Right.
It did.
The so-called job creators are hard at work trying to kill jobs. I mean, this Frank
no, the Obama administration
thousands of layoffs are planned on Wall Street here. Now we've got Goldman Sachs announcing that they're going to cut $1.2 billion in costs by laying off 1,000 American workers. At the same time, the apologists for these same banksters are saying, oh, we can't raise the taxes on banksters. They pay 15% income tax. Oh my God, we can't raise their taxes. They won't create any more jobs.
It's capital gains.
Capital gains tax.
Right.
Well, it is actually capital gains is a variation on income tax.
Well, it's a double taxation. They've already paid income tax on the money. It absolutely is. They paid money on the taxes. They paid taxes on the money they made. Then they invest it, and then they get screwed on 15% on that. And what's absurd is they charge 50% on a capital gains win. The maximum you can deduct, the maximum loss you can deduct in any given year is $3,000. It's an absurd scam.
So you're saying that a carpenter who goes to work and uses his hammer, and he's already paid taxes on the money he used to buy that hammer, is being double taxed when he's getting income tax?
That's stupid.
It's the exact same argument. You're saying that people who make money with money should only pay 15% maximum income tax, but if you make money with a hammer, You should pay 36%.
No, I want to lower the 36 rate to 15.
Well, okay. Well, then you would be consistent, but
I mean,
that's what I want.
I mean, what
Okay,
you're trying
so,
to go at
yeah,
is the question of
destroy
people
the
getting
country.
laid off in an economy.
No, destroy the government.
In an economy that's clearly, I mean, tightening its belt across the board. These are banks that are tightening their belts, and how does that happen? I mean, of course they have to tighten their expenses, and sometimes that includes payroll. Everyone's suffering in this economy, and that doesn't just mean. I think what
Everyone
you're trying
is
to do.
not suffering in
What
this
you're trying to do
economy.
is make a distinction.
Vince, last year was the most profitable year for corporate America in the history of this nation.
That's because they got government money.
No, it was
because they got government money and they didn't.
Because they laid off all kinds of people and they're sitting on $2 trillion.
But wait. For the money that they're sitting on, and the sitting on argument's interesting. Why do you think any company would sit on money right now? I mean, it's clear that you have government regulation. Government regulation
to sit on money, they'd love to invest it. That's absurd, Tom.
Okay, well, there is no demand in the economy right now. No, we're in a depression.
No,
we're on the edge of one.
The government is dropping regulatory anvils all over the place, and they're not going to invest.
Name one.
Name one?
Yeah.
EPA.
The EPA is not a regulatory anvil, it's an agency.
They're dropping regulatory anvils, like enforcing cap and trade, even though it never got passed. The NLRB is telling Boeing they can't go.
Something that never passed.
Well, they're looking for ways to enforce it.
It probably was never passed, and the FCC's jamming it down our throats. That's a regulatory anvil that's just been dropped.
And these regulations,
all
if
these
you wonder where
horrible
regulations come from, you mentioned agencies. Of course, agencies beget regulations. I mean, that's
regulations come from people who are saying, you know, I'd really rather not have my children be poisoned. I'd really rather have the air.
Okay, they have to come from the People's Congress. They can't just be jammed through by executive branch regulatory fiat, Tom.
But Tom, if you're
this isn't a dictatorship.
Congress can stop them anytime.
Tom,
well, they shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
They can stop them anytime.
They are. The Congressional Review Act.
You've kind of made a sweeping generalization about regulation, though. Are you saying you're in favor of all regulation across the board?
No.
Okay.
And neither am I opposed to all. It's a cliche. It's a cliche.
Surely.
That's my objection to it. Is that anyhow, cops started a brutal crackdown on Wall Street. Did you guys see the video of this guy putting the pepper spray or the mace right in this woman's eyes? I mean, she was just standing there. They were hurting them, and then and it turns out that this cop has apparently several civil rights violations in the past. These kinds of things apparently associated with political things, although we're not sure. But the question. Well, in fact, here let's just show our viewers this picture that we're talking about.
She was supposed to be moving, and she wasn't moving.
No, actually, she couldn't. There
was no one around her.
They were herding people into confined areas with those orange things, and then they pepper sprayed one of them. But I don't want to debate the relative merits of that police officer or that case. None of us were there, and you know, it probably should be adjudicated somehow. I'm curious about the larger question. Our military, our police departments all across the country are being hyper-militarized. Are we turning into a police state?
Well, you know, I think I kind of fall on both sides of this issue. I've seen police officers who have stretched their authority far too far. I mean, you see police officers who get behind the badge and they actually feel enabled to do things that they really shouldn't be doing, and that's the type of thing that has to be stopped. In this video, and I think you appropriately said, you know, we don't know the context. This is one of those things where you can see a clip and a lot of people are enraged. There's a lot of passion. You see a lot, obviously, young women who are being pepper sprayed, and the types of emotions that any person should have are, wow, that's pretty shocking. But also, I'd like to know more.
But we have, you know, we had posse comitatus in the 1870s until about 5 years ago that said that it was illegal for the federal government to turn its guns on its own citizens. I don't understand why the Bush administration repealed that. We have now a nationwide push by police departments to criminalize photographing public officers doing, you know, out there.
You and I agree on that.
We
won't be debating this part very long.
Yeah, it just seems okay. In that case, then let's move along.
On that issue.
CDC food safety, listeria. We've got this listeria contamination now. 72 people have been sickened. 13 have been killed. Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Texas. Ron Paul's state. And Ron Paul's the guy who says, you know, there should not be any food safety regulation, along with you, Seton, I know. What's the deal here? Republican Jack Kingston defended the cuts, $87 million from the FDA, $35 million from the USDA, both specifically for food safety. Jack Kingston said, do we believe that McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Safeway and Kraft Food and any brand name that you can think of, that these people aren't concerned about food safety? The food safety in America is very safe because the private sector self-polices. And, you know, I would think by and large that there's a strong incentive for that. But isn't self-policing, you know, doesn't this prove that waiting until after the harm is done is stupid?
Oh, because what's stupider is relying on government to execute it properly in advance. As we see time and time again, they had 36 million pounds of poison turkey got through. We have to assume that at 36 million pounds, the government got a hold of some of it, looked at it, and said, "Aye, aye, on the all, pass it on through."
There's about one inspector for about every 7,000 food processing facilities.
Well, yeah, but
in
the
America.
point is, if Kraft puts out a bad product, people aren't going to buy Kraft.
If that company that had that 37 million pounds of turkey was actually doing this free market self-inspection, they would have caught it when it was only a half.
You know, when it comes to food inspection, one of the few things the government, I think, has gotten right, and I think Seton will disagree with me on this point, but gotten right over time, has been this, to an extent, food safety. Now, what you're dealing with here is a question of diminishing returns. A century ago, if you were to look at the numbers of people who were affected by foodborne illnesses, and deaths for that matter, you'd be seeing in the thousands of a certain
But not all of it was from the food. It was from the lack of refrigeration in the home and all those things.
There's a lot of contributing factors. But now you're seeing, obviously, how many have we seen died? You cited some numbers.
17 people.
I mean, right now, I mean, that is,
72.
I hate to say this, but the government does attribute a cost to an individual's life. At some point, it's far too expensive to be able to create the types of diminishing returns that actually gets people to very few people killed in something like this. I would say that they need to continue to do their jobs, but I don't think that this calls for any sort of expansion of their role.
And real quick, I just want to say I don't like the term self-policing because it's not the company themselves that are policing them. It's the marketplace. If Kraft keeps putting out bad food, no one's going to buy Kraft, and they're done. It's not them policing themselves. It's 320 million consumers.
In the abstract, that's a great and noble argument, but it's also an argument that is reactive rather than proactive. It's an argument where what you're saying is after 10 or 15 or 20 people are dead, then we'll do.
The last people I want in the proactive business is government.
Our quick fire question here. Here it is. A security assessment team with the Department of Energy, basically the same guys who make sure that our nuclear weapons factories are safe, did a test on just how safe our Diebold electronic voting machines are. What they found is someone with just $26 worth of tools and an 8th grade knowledge of science can hack into machines, change the vote results, and leave no trace behind. So, in this age of hacktivism, groups like Anonymous, are we really to believe that they're not going to try something out like this next year? So let's assume they do. Which new president would be brought to us by hackers? And who would you be most satisfied with? A, Charlie Sheen and his platform of legalizing all drugs. B, Donald Trump and his tax credit for when hair plugs go bad. Or C, Yosemite Sam and his gun rights platform.
I think these anonymous people actually revel in the opportunity to throw some random characters. So I'm going to go with, was it the Elmer Fudd at the end? Yosemite Sam. Yeah, I think they like that whole cartoon character thing.
Yes, I'm going to go with Yosemite Sam.
Yosemite Sam. Yosemite Sam would be pretty good. Or maybe Leghorn, Cleghorn. What was
it? Would be a very law and order
Foghorn
administration.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there you go. Okay, I'll reveal mine during the Daily Take tonight. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Seton, great to see you both.